When it comes on to morality in the Souls games, especially the Dark Souls series, it's hard to place many of the characters under just good or bad. A lot of them happens to be somewhere in the gray area, where they obviously did some messed up things, but they've also done a lot of good as well, or at least had some good reason to do what they did. Some of this confusion comes from the lack of info we have on these characters. However, after going over some of them that stood out to me, I've realized that a lot of them can technically fall under the morally corrupt and evil categories. So today I'm going to pick out a few of the most morally corrupt or just straight up evil Dark Souls characters from the 3 Dark Souls games and see which one is truly the most heinous. I'm going to place them into 3 categories. First one being morally gray, second one being bad, and the final category being truly evil. These are just like the bad characters, except their crimes are on a much larger scale. Again, I'm just gonna pick out the ones that stood out to me the most. There are a lot of characters in the Souls games, and I'm sure many of them can be considered bad, but instead of making this video unnecessarily long, I just wanted to talk about the more popular characters that's shown to be very, morally messed up, I guess. Also, I just want to say, I know the title of this video has the word evil in it, but I'm not saying that all of these characters on this list are straight up evil. Again, it's just that some of them are in the gray area on the moral spectrum, so I still included them just to talk about them a little. Also remember, this video is just for fun. So without wasting any more of your time, let's get to the first person. Smo was an executioner. He wanted to be one of Gwyn's 4 knights. The current 4 knights were Artorias, Ornstein, Goff, and Kirin. Smo would grind the bones of his victims for his own feed, meaning he's a cannibal. Because of this, he wouldn't be allowed to be one of Gwyn's knights. However, despite this, it seemed that Smo was still a capable executioner and warrior to not lose his role or be imprisoned for what he has done. There was even a statue of him in the capital. Now it seemed like Smo had something against Ornstein, as in the boss fight, if Ornstein goes down first, Smo will immediately crush him with his hammer, absorbing his power. Now, due to some lore revelations in Dark Souls 3, it does seem like this version of Ornstein is an illusion made by Gwendolyn. But even if Smo knew this, I still find it weird that he would crush the body, whether real or fake, of someone he had respect for. Now, it could be that Smo was jealous of Ornstein due to him being accepted as one of the 4 knights instead, and even though that's just speculation, I still think it makes sense. Now, as you can see, Smo is a sadistic cannibal who will devour anyone he executes. Now, the reason why he's not higher is because it seemed like the people he executes aren't innocents and most likely terrible criminals. But still, devouring another man's flesh and known for being sadistic doesn't scream good guy qualities to me, so I'm just gonna place him here. Sister Frida is the eldest of her sisters and the leader of the Sable Church. The sisters serve Darkstalker Koth, hoping to bring about his vision of a Dark Lord. However, Frida eventually strayed from this path. It seemed that she once tried to link the First Flame, but likely failed, causing her to lose all sense of purpose in the real world. As a result, she retreated to the Painted World. In the Painted World, Frida manipulated Father Ariandel, allowing the world to rot because she didn't want fire to burn there. In the Painted World, when rot overtakes everything, the painting must be burned to create a new one. It's unclear whether this means that the inhabitants move to a new painting or if they simply sacrifice themselves, but either way, Frida resisted this. She wanted to prolong the rotting world, causing suffering and misery for those who live there. Her motives for this are unclear. It might be due to her resentment towards the cycles of fire after her failed attempt to link the flame, or perhaps she wanted to remain in control of the painted world for as long as possible. Frida even imprisoned the painter girl and had one of her knights guard the tower, preventing anyone from saving her or allowing her to create a new world. While it may be harsh to label Frida as purely evil, even the inhabitants of the Painted World speak ill of her, calling her a witch and a tyrant. By allowing these people to suffer for unknown reasons, it's fair to say she's morally corrupt. Perhaps not entirely evil, but certainly far from good. Long ago, during the Age of the Ancients, Gwyn discovered a great fire. Within this fire, he found a soul that granted him immense power, enough to challenge the everlasting dragons. However, Gwyn didn't fight alone. Others too found powerful Lord Souls, but Gwyn's was the most formidable. With this newfound strength, he led a war against the dragons, and after many years, they were finally defeated. Now, Gwyn pride shapes the world. He imposed his ideals upon others, such as branding the dark sign on the very humans who once aided him in the war. This was because of their connection to the dark, which Gwyn saw as a threat to his Age of Fire. By doing this, he prevented humans from returning to their true forms. Ultimately, Gwyn, maybe due to his pride, also wouldn't allow the natural cycle of the world to continue. In his eyes, the age of fire he created was superior and he couldn't bear to let it fade. In the end, he sacrificed his life to the first flame, hoping to extend the age of fire just a little bit longer. Now, if you ask any Dark Souls player who knows about the lore whether they think Gwyn was a good or a bad person, most of the answers you would get is in between. You'll definitely have some people say that he's bad, but you'll hear a lot more tell you that he's morally gray, as he does good things like build kingdoms for the people who've helped him, giving his daughter to those said people to watch over them, allowing Sif to have his own dukedom in a Norlondo even though he was a dragon, and during his reign it seemed like a Norlondo was in a good state. Now sure, those things sound good, but at the same time he did place the dark signs on humans, preventing their true nature. The same kingdom he built for them is basically a prison used to keep them under control. He would also forsake his own daughter that he gifted to those people, but the worst thing that Gwyn did was keeping the fire burning, prolonging the decaying world without letting the natural cycle take place. With all those things said, it's easy to see why many think of Gwyn as a villain, but even then, I still don't think he's truly evil. He strikes me as an obvious prideful man, but that's very morally gray, as sure he does bad things, but he also did a lot of good. But unfortunately, he seems to be a very controlling person. Nashandra was born a fragment of Manos. This fragment represented his want. This made Nashandra have greed for everything but mostly power. She would travel to the land of Drang Lake and meet a man named King Vendrick. He allowed her to join his kingdom and she warned him about the looming threat of the giants across the seas. Because of this, Vendrick decided to invade their lands and took a valuable item from them. This would later cause the giants to retaliate and they would invade Drang Lake, but they were defeated. After this, Vendrick's brother Aldia did experiments on the giants, turning them into golems and also imprisoned the giant lord. Later on, Nashandra would become Vendrick's queen and everything was going smooth sailing from here. Except one day, Vendrick took a look into Nashandra's soul only to find nothing, as she's a child of the dark after all. This scared Vendrick, as now he knows that she doesn't truly love or care for him, but just wants to use him for power and control. Knowing this, Vendrick called upon one of his closest knight and had him follow him to the crypts in a faraway place. You see, Vendrick did this because he knew what Nashandra wanted was to be on the throne of Want, which would grant her a lot of powers and true rulership. However, to enter the throne room, she would need the king's ring, which only Vendrick had access to, so that's why he locked himself away in the crypt for many years, and he had Velstad, his royal knight, guarded. Knowing this, Nashandra knew she needed help, so what she did was manipulate countless undead warriors, us included, to retrieve access to the throne of Want. She promised us that we would become ruler. However, after we defeat the throne defenders, she would reveal her true nature, not only in intentions but looks as well. We first encounter Knight Lothric of Karim locked in a cell at the undead parish. After freeing him, he appears grateful, but his kindness is deceiving. Lothric is a devotee of Athena, the goddess of love, yet his actions contradicts the ideal she represents. Ironically, despite his supposed devotion to love, Lothric is on a sinister mission to kill a firekeeper. After his release, he eventually succeeds in this goal, murdering the firekeeper at Firelink Shrine. Later in the game, we track down Lothric and his two companions by invading their worlds. Here we defeat him and his companions. Upon defeating him, we reclaim the Firekeeper's soul, and at this point, we as the player can choose to increase our own strength with it, or restore the slain Firekeeper to life. Lothric's story is very short, but I'm glad it's here as it still shows that no matter how morally ambiguous a lot of the Souls characters are, there are definitely a few that are more on the nose with their intentions. And because he was on a hunt to kill the Firekeeper, a supposedly innocent person, I placed him in the bad category. Patch is the infamous trickster. He's definitely a very, let's just say, morally corrupt person, as his actions include tricking players into deadly falls by lying to them about precious items, notably in the original Dark Souls where he pushes the player off a ledge and then attempts to sell them their own gear back. He also shows a lack of genuine remorse for his actions, often shrugging things off like nothing ever happened. However, Patch's character is not devoid of redeeming qualities. He exhibits a certain charm and humor that adds levity to the otherwise grim atmosphere of the game. Also, in Dark Souls 3, he offers assistance and even sells us useful items, hinting at a more nuanced personality beneath his trickster exterior. I know some of you might be surprised that I placed him this high, but again, apart from the fact that he's charismatic, he's still not a good person. Far from it. He literally will trick unsuspecting people and lead them to their death, all because in his eyes he's punishing greed, but that's not the case. He's just using that as an excuse just to be a dick. Leonard was born into royalty, where he learned both sorcery and swordsmanship. At some point, he suffered severe burns across his entire body, though the circumstances remain unclear. His face was especially damaged, leading him to wear a silver mask to hide his disfigurement. Later on, Leonard traveled to the Cathedral of the Deep, hoping to heal his scars through rebirth. However, after meeting Rosaria, Mother of Rebirth, he chose not to heal his burns for unknown reasons. Instead, he took a vow to serve her. Leonard's story takes a darker turn as he becomes a finger of Rosaria, a role that involves invading other people's worlds and killing them to collect pale tongues, which he offers to Rosaria. This is one of the reasons why I included him here. The second reason is his action later on in the game. After you meet Rosaria and offer her a pale tongue, Leonard becomes paranoid. Without much explanation, he kills Rosaria and steals her soul. When you confront him, he doesn't provide a clear reason for his actions, only calling you a beast before fighting you. After you defeat him, you can recover Rosaria's soul and restore her. It's clear that Leonard is not mentally stable, and this erratic behavior is why I placed him here. His obsession with Rosaria and unexplained actions make him an intriguing yet unsettling character. Now, apart from killing Rosaria, the main reason why I put him here is because of his ability to invade other people's world, meaning he goes around killing unsuspecting people to get pale tongues. That's the main reason why he's even this high. Petrus is a cleric we first encounter at Firelink Shrine, where he seems to be part of a noble mission alongside Lady Rhea and her companions. However, after progressing further into the game, we return to find only Petrus at Firelink. When we speak to him, he reveals that Lady Rhea has gone missing, and he seems very sad and worried. Later on, progressing through the game, we enter the catacombs. As we delve deeper into the catacombs, we eventually find Rhea, who explains that she fell during her journey, and two of her companions succumbed to hollowing. It seems Petrus fled the scene rather than staying to protect her. After rescuing Rhea and returning to speak with Petrus, he coldly remarks that it would have been a better idea to leave her behind, suggesting that her noble birth and status means nothing now. It seems that he had some weird type of grudge against her due to her nobility. Later on, we speak with Rhea at the undead church, and she expresses her despair, admitting that Petrus was right in calling her weak, as all her comrades are now dead. She even asks the player to end her life. If we refuse, Petrus will eventually kill her himself, as proven when we later defeat him and find an item belonging to her. Petrus is another obviously evil Souls character, as he isn't afraid to tell you that he abandoned his lady. Not only that, but he literally kills her depending on your actions, which killing someone just because you find them weak is just straight up evil in my opinion. Manos, the father of the Abyss, was a primordial human who possessed an extraordinary soul, an immense dark soul. He was also a sorcerer wielding a crude yet powerful wooden catalyst large enough to be used as a weapon. His sorceries infused with dark power manipulated the dark soul itself, allowing him to give it a will of its own. Manos also held one half of an ancient pendant deeply precious to him, symbolizing the lost joy and wrenching nostalgia of a long past loved one. Long ago, Manos perished and his body was buried deep within the caves of the region that would later become Ulasil. However, following Gwyn's sacrifice to link the first flame, the primordial serpent, Kath, arrived in Ulasil and manipulated its people. Under his influence, they disturbed Manos' grave, buried beneath the city's dungeons, and resurrected the primordial man, sparking the abyss that would soon engulf Ulasil. The royal family of Ulasil took Manos' precious broken pendant for themselves and gave it to Princess Dusk. This, coupled with the fact that this pendant belonged to Manos' possibly deceased wife, understandable that he was desperate to reclaim it. This also drove him mad, so mad to the point where his dark soul spiraled out of control, transforming him into a dark beast. This also manifested into the abyss, spreading across the land and consuming all of Ulasil. Now, in terms of Manos' morality, it's very hard to say. I placed him here because from what I've read about him in the lore, it seems like he deliberately wanted to kill the people of Ulasil, but it could also just be that he had a, Hulk out situation and was transformed due to his rage and his dark souls becoming unstable. Which would technically mean on the morality side of things, he didn't really do anything bad since he was, driven mad, I guess. But on the other side of things, he did kill and deformed many people out of rage, so I don't know. You see, this is what I find fascinating about Dark Souls lore. It's literally very hard to put these people into basic good, bad, or evil categories, as there are a lot of reasons to why they do things, and that's why I'm here to remind you that this video is just for fun. Anyways, I'm gonna leave him here, but I do want to know whether or not you find Manos an evil character or somewhere in the morally gray area, or possibly a victim, I'm not sure. I want to hear what you guys think. During the Age of the Ancients, Seath decided to do the unthinkable and betrayed his own kind by teaming up with Gwyn. He helped Gwyn in almost eradicating all of the dragons, and because of this, Gwyn granted Seath his own dukedom. Here, he can carry out experiments and do other weird scientist shit. Now, I forgot to mention the reason why Seath decided to betray his kind. It was because of his lack of stone skin. You see, all the other ancient dragons look like straight up chads with their statue-like physiques, and here you have Seath who look like an underdeveloped dragon fetus. But the real reason why Seath is obsessed with the stone skin is because it's the main reason why the dragons were immortal. And for many years to come, Seath would try his best to replicate this form of immortality. You see, he managed to create or find a crystal that would grant him his immortality, but unfortunately, for some damn reason, I don't know, he has it sitting out there in the open in his boss arena. But let's get to the real reasons why I put Seath here. You see, during his research to gain immortality, he went batshit insane and started doing horrible ass experiments. One of these experiments included him turning maidens into whatever the hell these things are. It is also believed that he created Priscilla and Yorshka, as they are both part dragon, part humanoid, which is the only good thing he's ever done. And yeah, let's not forget, he literally helped with almost eradicating his entire race just because he was jealous of them. So to put it simply, the reason why I placed him this high is because 1, he literally betrayed his entire race due to, again, jealousy, and 2, he did horrible experiments on people. So those are the reasons why. So yeah, this man, or thing, dragon, whatever, is evil. I don't care. He's evil. Or very morally corrupt. Now, the second most evil character we have in the Souls game is Aldrich. Aldrich, once a cleric of the Way of White, began as a man of faith but descended into depravity, indulging in cannibalism to the point of a grotesque transformation. He took pleasure in devouring humans and hearing their final screams, consuming so much flesh that his body became a bloated mass of sludge. Over time, this gluttony gave him immense power, eventually leading to his ascension as a Lord of Cinder. Aldrich's transformation continued as he developed a new obsession, devouring gods. His ultimate target was Gwyndolin, the god who had been imprisoned by Pontiff Solivan. This led him back to Orlando, where he confronted and devoured Gwyndolin's ass, absorbing his body and powers. In doing so, Aldrich began to wield Gwyndolин's abilities, using his divine magic in battle while still slowly consuming him. For those who know Dark Souls lore, you already knew Aldrich was going to be placed super high. I mean, I kind of glossed over the details of his story, but I pointed out the one thing that made me realize how truly evil he is, and that is his sadistic nature of consuming flesh. Imagine being such an evil cannibal, devouring so much people to the point where you become, sludge. That is insane and just heinous. I don't think I have to go into more details on why I put him this high on the list. This man truly deserves this spot, unfortunately. Now, for the most evil, corrupt character in the Soulsborne universe, we have Pontiff Solivan. At a young age, Solivan arrived in Irithyll, a city inhabited by the descendants of the old gods. Despite lacking divine blood, he earned favor with Dark Sun Gwyndolin. During his time here, Solivan discovered the profane flame in the underground ruins of the profane capital, an everlasting flame that could be preserved. This discovery fueled his ambition as he saw the flame as a source of immense political and religious power in a world centered on the fading first flame. Solivan used the profane flame to manipulate and corrupt Irithyll's holy knights, turning them into his personal army. These knights, once servants of the gods, became fire witches wielding the profane flame and sorcery, while the soldiers under their command used frost magic. When Gwyndolin fell ill, Solivan declared himself pontiff, seizing control of Irithyll and imprisoning Gwyndolin in the old cathedral, while his sister Yorshka was locked in her church tower. Having consolidated powers, Solivan purged Irithyll of enemies, exiling or killing the Blades of the Dark Moon, enslaving the city's giants and turning survivors of the profane capital into jailers. He built an immense dungeon and erected a magical barrier around Irithyll to control who entered and left. Now in absolute control, Solivan conducted horrific experiments. Humans were reduced to slaves, also the giants as well. Monstrous beasts roamed the streets and in his dungeons. So let's see. He manipulated and corrupted knights, seized power through deception, imprisoned Gwendolyn, imprisoned Yorshka, exiled or killed the Blades of the Dark Moon, enslaved giants, built a dungeon for political control, conducted horrific experiments, enslaved humans, created monstrous beasts who were results of those experiments, turned a former royal daughter into his personal dancer and a beast, most likely against her will, imposed strict control over Irithyll. This man is basically the P. Diddy of the Soulsverse, minus the orgies and shit. You know what? Knowing Sullivan, I don't put it past him. This man is literally the most evil Dark Souls character ever. I was contemplating putting Aldrich over him, but then I found out that his ass helped Aldrich as well, so he's literally just evil without any sympathetic backstory or anything. Nah, he was just like, hey, I want to rule this place, and I want to do it with an iron fist, and make everyone's existence as miserable as possible. Yeah, he's just straight up evil. I don't think there's even anyone that can debate it. I don't care if he had some weird, sad backstory or whatever. He's straight up evil. That's it.